Good morning, Craig. It's Jamie Stewart from Kleeneze HQ. I just wanted to spend a bit of time with you this morning asking you to share with everyone, really, the success that you've had winning 5 trophies, the first time in probably since Kleeneze's history, since 1923, that a team of people have skipped 5 of the 6 trophies at the annual awards. So, Craig White, in your own words, tell me, if there's one thing that you think that's helped you and your team have success, what would that be that you could share with people?
Well, morning, Jamie. It's amazing to have experienced the trophy wins across the team, and I think, aside from the vehicle we have with Kleeneze and the excitement and the belief that's going on at the moment, I think if we were to attribute the knowledge and focus on winning the trophies, I think it's understanding our numbers and tracking our business, really. And I think working the right numbers is key and essential to people's growth. And I think across the network, I think everybody does this, which is great. I mean, certainly in our business, what we do is we have our plans, and we know the threshold of activity to grow the business. And I think the basics is from a sponsoring point of view, it's about introducing a person a week, and I think that's the same at least across the board. But obviously with Break Free now, we should really be aiming a lot higher than that. But what we tend to do is we focus on the activities and the numbers for people to achieve their goals, and each week all distributors that are looking to build a business will have like a coaching and a strategy call with their sponsor. And it's just a way where, what we do, as I said, in our team is people can put their heads together, analyse what's been done in the previous week, recognise the success that's been created, but also, importantly, make the correct adjustments accordingly to their plan. So, if we're behind on our numbers, rather than waiting until the end of the month and thinking, oh, we didn't achieve our goal, we're making the adjustments and corrections on a weekly basis to ensure people are, stand above the threshold for their goals. And, when we set our goals, it's about getting passionate about our life, and there's no excuse not to achieve them. But again, it's tracking and keeping on track. It's that analogy with, the rocket ships obviously going to the moon, and they're off course, 95% of the time, and they've got Houston bringing them back on course continuously. And that's what I think we do in our business, and I know a lot of people do across the network.
So that's quite a simple thing for people to do, isn't it? Because as a company, we send out bulk sales to people automatically each week. So you're saying that they need to track their performance by week from the figures that we automatically send them? Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think, obviously if someone's goal is to generate so many inquiries by doing activities A, B, and C, and if they've got a level of activity required to achieve them goals, and if that doesn't quite achieve the target, but they've achieved the level of activity, then you need to address the level of activity to ensure that the following week the target is achieved, rather than leaving anything to chance and just hoping that, well, I've done it this week, I'll do it next week and hope I get a few more leads. We look to make the adjustments to ensure people get the results. Yeah. So you're coaching people to support them with their tracking then? Yeah, most definitely. And does that happen? And we use the same sort of planners and strategy planners that I think are around across the network. So is that like the 90-day planner that we've got on the DSA then? That's the one. Yeah, it works really, really well. Fantastic. And we also have, what we tend to do as well is obviously, people track their figures weekly against last year. So, for example, say a new gold business this time last year was doing £6,000 worth of turnover. In period 2 this year, say they do £14,000 worth of turnover. They have weekly tracking charts where they just record, well, blimey, we're £400 up on last year, or we're £4,000 up on last year this week. So I think it's just good for people to know their figures, and they have them progress charts. And then with the company trophies, to kind of, I suppose, answer your question in best, people, aside from the weekly tracking, all distributors at the end of the period know their percentage growth on the Friday prior to the trophies coming out on the Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, because we know what our base figure is. So what we do is we track our year-on-year growth every month, so we know our percentage and we know where our business is moving forward. Before we get the figures from you, if that makes sense. Yeah, that does. I do the same thing. I track our sales in relation to what we were doing this week 4 weeks ago and this week last year. Now, I'm in a slightly better position in that I get some of mine's automated. So every 2 hours during the day, I know exactly how my sales are performing compared to 4 weeks ago and compared to last year. But that tracking is essential, and it just becomes a habit after a while. At first, it can become a bit of a chore having to do this kind of stuff because it's routine and it's different and it's outside your comfort zone. But once you get into it, it really makes a difference and helps you focus on what you need to do.
I think it's quite exciting when you know, because again, we do the same thing. I mean, I'm always conscious, and I want to be last period because it's closer than last year. But I think what's also reassuring, you know, when you're up on the same week last period, it's motivating, it's inspiring that, you know, you're doing the right things right.
Definitely. My wife can't speak to me at 9:30 at night when I'm waiting for the end of the day sales figures coming through. And I know that my team are the same.
Yeah.
We're all there waiting for the text or the email to come through just so we can tick it off on our trackers.
Yeah. I think understanding numbers and tracking your business, you know, regularly is, I think, really important for everybody. As, you know, Darren Hardy talks about in The Compound Effect.
I was just going to say, who else do you know that, you know, training-wise that you've read that does this kind of stuff? Darren Hardy springs to mind straight away with The Compound Effect, doesn't he?
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, it's just that slight edge shot philosophy from Jeff Olson that, you know, we're all going to be getting to see firsthand in New York.
Definitely. Right, whilst I've got you on as well, as it's Friday the 18th of February that we're doing this, EWB hasn't come out yet, but I've done an interview in EWB this week where we announced that we're going to make Break Free permanent until the end of 2011.
Oh, wow.
Now, I think there's a couple of reasons that we've done this early. Firstly, I've seen fantastic success over the last 6 weeks since we launched it, but I need to give it a bit longer now, and I really want people to get stuck into this and let's give it our best shot this year and see what we can do with it. What do you think Break Free's done for people so far?
I think it's sensational. I just think it gives us a route into some of the closed mind kind of people in the UK that, you know, maybe don't look at our business because there's an investment. Well, I think it gets our foot in the door now and allows us to actually show people what our business is all about rather than having a closed mind. And I think it just allows us to present the business to far more people. You know, you just see in the results itself, with regards to like Martin Gardner, who's, you know, done sort of 20, 30 people in the last sort of 8 weeks, with regards to this Break Free, and I just think it's absolutely sensational.
He's done, Gavin copies me in on some of his emails and voicemails. Martin did, I think, 20 people in period 1 that he signed in, and in period 2 he's upped his game and he's done 30 sign-ins.
That's awesome.
That's 50 people in 8 weeks, which is phenomenal.
I just think I think, you know, that's fantastic, Jamie, that you're doing it to the end of the year, because I just think it's just an opportunity to really go out there and find some wicked people.
Definitely, and I think it makes it a lot easier for new people when they come in as well, where they don't have the experience built up in explaining how the business works, that they don't get put off by having to say there's a cost to joining.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of people coming in and sponsoring before they've even placed the first order themselves.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, people, I'm sure you've noticed as well, people are, you know, it gets us in the door and people actually come back to us and say, well, you know, actually I'd rather invest and start with the Business Builder 200.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I just think people see the opportunity for what it is, and those that have got, you know, some finances in the bank, you know, once they've seen the opportunity with an open mind, they know it makes sense to invest in the business.
Definitely. Sure. And once they've made, the thing that I think is, once you've made your decision to join, you're in. It's then just a case of how much do you want to earn and how quickly. Break Free is fantastic if you really cannot afford to join. But some people want to come in and start earning £200 a week from the day that they join.
Yeah.
So, and you can't do that with Break Free. You need to be joining with more catalogues, and that's what's happening. So people that say, yeah, I can't afford to join, they're coming in, they're looking at the business through with a bit more clarity now. They decide that they're going to join, and then they think, do you know what, Break Free is not the right kit for me to join on. I need to be joining with 200 catalogues because I want to start earning big money quite quick.
Yeah.
So it's a very exciting time in the business, and we've seen phenomenal growth over the last 6 to 8 weeks in people coming in and joining. Something that I've never seen.
I've had a guy that's just called me back after about 6-7 months, and he said, "It's Colin, Craig, do you remember me?" And I'm honestly, no, I'm afraid I don't. And anyway, I got talking to him, and he said, "Well, you know, I want to get started, but I want to come in at the minimum investment possible because budget's really tight." I said, "Okay, well, you know, you can actually break free now." And I started explaining to him it, and he did actually say, "Well, that's not going to be enough catalogues for me." I was looking at the £156 one on your literature. And I'm thinking, yep, mate, that's fantastic. I'll get the web link sent to you straight away.
It is. And it's exciting. And that's the other thing, that all these people are coming in online now and getting up and running really quick. So I think if I looked at the figures last week, 99% of people joined online.
That's brilliant.
Which is a great start to the business. Right. I know you're busy, and I've got meetings to go to. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share this with us this morning, and I'm sure that, if there's one thing that people can take away from it, it's understanding their numbers.
Yeah, rock and roll, mate. We'll have a wicked day, and I'll see you soon.
All right, well, I look forward to seeing you in New York as well.
Yes, mate, for sure.
Take care. Thanks, Craig.
Cheers, Jamie. Bye-bye.
Bye now.